This is the Boise State HR Fireside Chat. If this is your first time, I'm Casey Park. I work in HR with a lot of lovely people who are also on this call. This is your weekly touch point with HR. If you have any HR related questions, you have our attention. Feel free to throw things in chat. On mic, we do have a special guest today. We have, I'm losing kindergartners in the back. Sorry, guys. We have the Idaho Caregivers Alliance here to talk to us about what it is to be a caregiver and to give us a quick presentation, which reminds me I need to give some sharing rights to Miss Chelsea Smith. So Zoom pause as we do that, and please say hi and chat to one another. I'm sure that there's some faces that you are recognizing. While I find Miss Chelsea, there you are. We're going to make you a co-host with two flourishes of a button. Gotta love Zoom. Okay, so I don't have any immediate HR updates this week, which is good news, yo. Sometimes when I bring stuff, I'm like, okay, hold on, we've got icky stuff coming. So please bear with me. I'm just the messenger. Please enjoy the pink hair and the crap message. But we have good stuff for you this week with Chelsea here, who's going to talk to us about the Idaho Caregivers Alliance, and if you are a caregiver, get you access to some great resources. Chelsea, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do, and then go ahead and jump into your presentation?
Yeah, for sure. And I also want to mention we have Tiffanny Robb here too, who's from our team. She'll be joining in the conversation, and a little bit later, Dr. Sarah Toevs, who's the director of the Center for the Study of Aging, will join as well into the conversation portion. So we've got three folks from our team here. I'll let Tiffanny introduce herself. I'm Chelsea Smith, and I'm the communications and project coordinator for the Family Caregiver Navigator Project, which is out of the Center for the Study of Aging here at BSU.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffanny Robb. I am with the Center for the Study of Aging, a research associate, as well as lead navigator and program coordinator for the Navigator project, of which Chelsea is going to tell you all about. And besides that, in my spare time, just because I love teaching, I also teach within the Department of Community and Environmental Health. I did want to just before Chelsea gets into this, because this is really going into the Navigator pilot project. So I did want to just mention that the Idaho Caregiver Alliance is an alliance that's housed within the Center for the Study of Aging. It was started in 2012, and it is just that, an alliance. So it's groups of individuals and organizations across the state who help really build awareness around caregivers, from the individual who needs to know that they're a caregiver to maybe the HR department that needs to create more of a caring culture within their organization. It could be, policymakers. So we definitely work state, local level, and as I said, independent as well as organizations. I will turn it over to Chelsea because she has a wonderful presentation for you, and then I'll be just in the background.
Great, thanks, Tiffanny. So the Family Caregiver Navigator Project, as Tiffanny mentioned, is a pilot project for the Idaho Caregiver Alliance and Study for Aging, Center for the Study of Aging. And the goal is to reduce burnout and promote well-being for Idaho's caregivers. Before we talk about the pilot project, though, I want to talk about caregiving, because caregiving affects all of us. Every single person here is affected by caregiving, even if you don't consider yourself a caregiver. And Rosalind Carter has a famous quote that says, there are 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. So This, I think, is a really sort of astute way to see caregiving, but also the numbers bear that out. And here in Idaho, we actually estimate that 1 in 4 people has caregiving duties informally for a friend or family member. And so to start things off, I want to ask you guys, are you a caregiver to someone in your life? We'll start with that question. And so you can either snap a pic on your phone of this QRC code, it'll take you to the link, or you can go to slido.com and enter 36142. And there's only 3 possible answers, yes, no, or not sure. And we'd love to know, for this audience, are you a caregiver to someone in your life? So let's just take a moment to do that.
Should we cue up the music? Do, do, do,
Do,
do,
do,
do,
do.
do, do.
This is not a test, I swear.
It is. That was like the easiest test I've taken in a long time.
Great. So we see the numbers coming in here. We've got about half of folks saying that they are a caregiver, a quarter saying no, another quarter saying not sure. We'll let this just bear out here as everyone's answering.
It reminds me of being at the fair with the horse races, shooting the little targets. Dun, 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 dun.
So yeah, and the not sure is totally understandable too. We're going to talk about that, like what makes a caregiver a caregiver. Great. So we're seeing about half of folks saying that they are a caregiver to someone in their life, and then about a quarter of folks saying not sure, and then the remainder saying no. So that's great. Thanks for doing that. Gives us a little sense of who we're talking to here. And getting back to the presentation, I just wanted to put this up here because we have an idea in our heads of who caregivers are. And we often kind of stereotype and assume that they're older females taking care of spouses or members of the family. Or we might think of a formal caregiver, somebody who is, paid to come into the home and assist with daily activities. So these are kind of some of the stereotypical images we get in our head. But the truth is that there's actually an increasing diversity of caregivers. Now 40% of caregivers are men. This is according to the AARP here in 2020, back in 2020. So recently, the AARP estimated that almost 40% of caregivers are men. You see here that 61% work, and actually here in Idaho, that's 70% of caregivers work. So we have a higher rate of employment for our caregivers here. And then we also see here that there's a lot of age diversity. If you look at the red figure there, 23% of caregivers are millennial. And we also have baby boomers having the largest chunk there at 34%, but the average age of a caregiver in America today is 49. So it's actually a little bit younger than you might think. And we have a lot of young caregivers, and we also have caregivers who are under 18. We're not going to focus on them today, but I do want to mention that there are kids out there caregiving for their parents and their siblings. So caregiving is affecting families everywhere. Also want to mention that minority populations often take on a bigger share of caregiving. Black and Hispanic caregivers provide more care to a loved one in home than their white counterparts. LGBTQIA+ folks become caregivers at a higher rate than the general population. Caregivers of children who have an incarcerated parent have the burdens of caregiving and also the stigma and shame of having a partner or a co-parent who's incarcerated. Immigrant caregivers make up 11% of the workforce of home health and 26% of the informal sector. And then I also wanted to mention on here that millennial caregivers are more likely to be supporting someone with a mental health condition and much more likely to be employed as well. So we see some of the older caregivers, maybe they'll come down to part-time, maybe they'll retire, which we'll talk about as well. But often the younger folks are working full-time in addition to caregiving. So what is a caregiver? Well, at the Idaho Caregiver Alliance, we really define that as anyone who is supporting another person with a diagnosis of any kind, any physical, intellectual, cognitive disability, chronic health condition, mental health condition. And caregiving can be across the country, or it can be someone in your own home. We have long distance caregiving. It can be a friend or a neighbor. It doesn't just have to be family. It can be part-time or full-time, and it can be impacted by cultural expectations and familial expectations. These are just some of the things that caregivers do. They provide ongoing emotional support to people who need it. They drive to doctor's appointments, prepare meals, do grocery shopping and household chores. They complete forms and documents. Maybe someone's doing a lot of translating for someone in their life. They assist with bill payment, arrange services, long distance. They assist with medications and maybe provide money to help pay the bills. So it really can be a wide range of activities. And this is just a snapshot to get you thinking, oh, maybe I am a caregiver. Because, a lot of times it surprises us at the Caregiver Alliance how often we have somebody who's caring for not just one, but sometimes multiple people in their lives, but don't consider themselves a caregiver. And part of that is the stigma, but part of that is just kind of not seeing themselves as a caregiver, seeing themselves as a family member. But one thing we want to talk about here is the invisible toll that caregiving can have on the person who is caregiving. So a lot of times, especially in the healthcare world, we're focusing on that person who's maybe the patient or the care recipient, the person with the diagnosis, right? Or the person who has a higher medical need, if you will. So that person, it tends to revolve around them. But below the surface of this iceberg, we have this toll on the caregiver's health, the impact on their family and on their employment. And just to give you a little idea here, we're all employed here at Boise State. 57% of employed caregivers report they have to go in late, leave early, or take time off. So this is impacting people's jobs, and it's impacting their ability to increase their income. 18% of employed caregivers had to go from full-time to part-time. 8% turned down a promotion. As I mentioned, some people have to retire early. Some people have to cover costs for their care recipients. So there's a big financial impact. And then also, very importantly for us as health professionals, caregiving health declines significantly in the first 5 years of caregiving. And that's kind of one of the areas we try to focus on, is bringing it back to the caregiver's health and well-being, and kind of taking their head out of their care recipient and their caregiving duties for a moment to really focus on their health and well-being. Because if we can support a caregiver in having a plan and feeling supported and focusing on their own health and well-being, then they're going to be able to care for that person for a lot longer. And so that is our goal, is to prevent caregiver burnout. And it's not just a nice thing to do. We actually believe it's a very important thing to do for our healthcare system. So one of the barriers to this work is really people seeing themselves as caregivers. So here are some quotes that we hear all the time. Tiffanny, as a lead navigator, probably hears variations of these, and we can talk to her more about that. But we have people say, I'm not a caregiver, I'm his mom. I do what I can for my grandchild. It's not his fault he was born this way. So considering all the hell I raised when I was a teenager, taking care of mom's the least I can do. Or I'm just doing what I said I would do as a husband until death do us part. Or I feel so guilty because I don't want to take care of him. I just want to live my life. So we hear a lot of obligation, a lot of duty, a lot of grief, and of course, a lot of joy too, as we love taking care of the people in our lives. But we can't deny the impact it has on the person and their life. And so our goal is to, really normalize this experience. And if you see yourself in this slide somewhere, just know that you are definitely not alone. And it's definitely okay to feel the full range of emotions associated with caregiving. It's not always a fun job. It's not always something that we signed up for, right? So it's really about learning how can we embrace this in a sustainable way. So how can we do that? How can we support caregivers? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing with the ICA. and the Family Caregiver Navigator Project. So as Tiffanny explained, the Idaho Caregiver Alliance has a long history of advocating for caregivers, and they partnered with the CSA to develop this program. It's a pilot project for 2 years in Southwest Idaho. It's a free service, which is something we're tremendously excited about. So there's really no barrier for folks to be involved as long as they're 18 plus and in Southwest Idaho. It's an options counseling and resource referral service, which I'll explain. And it uses an evidence-based intervention, which is very important for us as academics. So it is actually based on about 30 years of research on caregivers from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And we support any adult who supports another person with physical, intellectual, cognitive disabilities or mental health condition at whatever, whatever rate you assist to this person. It doesn't matter if they live with you or if you're just one of their caregivers, you could be eligible for this program. So this gives you a little model to wrap your head around. A lot of times folks come in the door through a referral, maybe their doctor or social worker, but we also have people who just see a flyer and give us a call. So you don't need a referral. So the caregiver connects with the navigator, and Tiffanny is our lead navigator. And the navigator conducts an assessment with the caregiver that looks at their stress factors and their caregiving situation. And then together they generate a care plan that not only helps them kind of hone in on their goals, but also connects them with those resources that are local that can assist. So we use a software platform called TCare, which is based on that research I mentioned. And one of the reasons we chose this is that, the results have been pretty significant in other states. Just to give you an example, in the state of Washington, a similar program reduced long-term care use by 20% and delayed nursing home placement by 21 months. So that's a big deal. So this is the kind of impact we hope to make in Idaho. We want people to age in place in their homes with their families, right? So that is really the ultimate goal here, especially from a funding perspective. Participants who stayed in the program for at least 6 months had significant reductions in depression and stress, even with an increase in caregiving duties. So why is that, you say? Their depression and anxiety went down, but their duties went up? Well, a big part of it is learning to embrace your caregiver identity and your strengths in that process, and also maybe giving up some of those things that aren't bringing you joy, that are stressful, that you can offload to other people in your life or professionals. And so that's where the planning comes in. So in this assessment, the navigator looks at the relationship with the care recipient. Is it strained? Is that a difficult relationship? Or maybe it's a good relationship, but it's still bringing, it's still bringing up issues for the caregiver. Maybe they miss their old relationship with the care recipient and they're grieving. There's an objective burden, which is really the actual tasks and time that you are taking. I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but I mean, the average person who's caregiving is spending over 10 hours a week supporting their care recipient. So there's a real objective cost to this in terms of the time and resources that are being spent. Then there's the stress burden, right? How does it feel? How does it feel to be a caregiver, especially during COVID? My God, everyone's struggling already. And now some people are caregiving for the first time, or they're caregiving full-time, and it used to be part-time. Or, God forbid, our loved ones are in long-term care already, and we are, having trouble being their caregiver now because of COVID protocols and lockdown. So that's a lot of stress, right there that can potentially happen. And then we also look at identity discrepancy, which goes back to this concept of being a caregiver. How do you feel about being a caregiver? Let's say your husband caring for your wife. How does it feel to be a caregiver and a husband? How you have some ideas about what it means to be a husband, and you might have ideas about what it means to be a caregiver. And are those things integrating, or are they at odds with each other? And so we really try to help people look at that and not only taking them into embracing their caregiver identity, but again, recognizing those areas where they might need more support, more training, or more assistance. This is an example of the care plan that's generated with the Navigator, they customize these goals according to the caregiver's needs. So we look at how we can help reduce their generalized stress, how we can look at changing their rules for personal care, and they will set very customized goals. So, you know, we want these goals to be achievable. We don't want caregivers to walk away feeling more overwhelmed, right? So we keep it small and we keep it achievable, and we strategize next steps. Who can help you with this? What organization can help with this? Is there someone in your life that can help? And together, the Navigator and the caregiver kind of create a small plan to help bring them in the next step in that direction of health and wellness. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like once I get through the presentation. But this is an example of the kind of results you might see in an assessment. So it's going to show you, you know, what your levels of burden are, your levels of depression or stress. And it's also going to show you how many hours you're spending in these different tasks. And also how the functionality, the level of functionality that your care recipient has, how that impacts your life. So this is a process that you can do really as many times as you want. We actually encourage people to come back every 3 months and do this again to connect with more resources, you know, set the next group of their goals and just continue on this journey. But it's very flexible. You can do this if things change, you know, and grandma ends up having to go into long-term care and now the care plan is outdated. We can do it again and tweak your care plan at any time. It's very, like I said, person-centered and customized to the individual caregiver. So that's just one of the ways that we're supporting caregivers at the Idaho Caregiver Alliance. I really want to encourage you to check out their website and the Caregiver Navigator. Maybe you could drop that in the chat if you wouldn't mind, Tiffany. We have a conference coming up. It's our 10th annual, but it's our first virtual conference. So we're excited about this because this is not for Southwest Idaho. This is for anyone in Idaho and beyond. You don't even need to be in Idaho, although some of it will be particularly interesting to Idaho folks. And we're going to have expert speakers, topical sessions. There's community building opportunities. And this is a place where you can come meet other folks who are also in caregiving situations. And we have different tracks for that kind of speak to different issues, you know, whether you're kind of in an estate and legal planning mode, or whether you are working with a child who has intellectual or cognitive disabilities, and you're trying to, you know, usher them into adulthood. We have all kinds of things for all kinds of caregivers, and it's only $15 for a full day of activities and lectures. So definitely want to encourage you to check this out, as well as the Family Caregiver Navigator. We also have a fantastic resource library on the ICA website. You can sort by tag to see, okay, disabilities rights, and then it'll pop up and show you what those resources are. And some of them are in Idaho and some of them are virtual, but it's geared towards Idahoans, so it's pretty regionally specific. There's a bunch in the chat here, but I haven't been looking. Okay, great. Thanks so much, Tiffany, for putting those in there. So before we, oh, I think I just went to the website. Okay. Having a PowerPoint moment here. Okay. So before we go on to our discussion portion, I want to ask you guys one more time. Are you a caregiver to someone in your life? Because I'd love to see if this has changed at all now that you've seen this presentation. So I'm going to clear this. We have 43, 33, 24. And I'm going to ask you guys to come to the poll again. And you can go to slido.com and enter 36142, or just snap a shot of that QRC code. And take the quiz one more time, just so we can see if those numbers have shifted at all, and maybe they haven't. Maybe you came because your partner is a caregiver and you want to know how to support them. But maybe this helped you realize that you might be a caregiver to someone else in your life. So we love
Chelsea, I did want to let you know that I put a screenshot actually in the chat, and that was from the first Slido results, so that you can compare, because we love data.
Awesome. Yes, we do.
And I'd love to also, I've been putting resources in there, but I'm going to add one more in, and it's a wonderful article, just really kind of diving into the difference between parenting versus being a parent versus being a caregiver. Because one population that has a really hard time identifying is a parent who might be taking care of an individual who has mental, behavioral, intellectual, physical disabilities. And so really trying to figure out how it differentiates is very important to help sustain the strength of that parent as they continue on.
Perfect. Yeah, that is a big question that comes up as well. And let's see. Let's see if we got some answers coming in. All right, we got a little bit of an uptick in that yes percent here. And and unsure. Okay, unsure has gone down. So that's helpful, hopefully. Very cool. Okay, great. I'm going to take a screen cap of that as well. Well, good. It looks like at least this provided a little bit of clarity for some folks on what a caregiver is, and some ways that we support caregivers at the ICA. And yeah, I'm really excited to just open this discussion with you guys. Tiffanny, I'm just going to toot your horn, as an amazing resource. She works with caregivers every day and also has a strong background working with parents of kids with intellectual developmental disabilities and TBIs, as well as other diagnoses. So yeah. Are there any questions from the group to help get started?
I just got to say, these ladies are wonderful. I had a quick 5-minute conversation with Chelsea because I was like, I don't know much about this caregiving thing, but I talk about being a parent to the point where it's annoying. But I kind of talked to her a little bit about my situation, and she's like, you probably are a caregiver. So I know that this is a resource that I personally will be taking advantage of as far as looking into it myself. And one of the things that has just been really prevalent on my mind is the ability to ask for help to avoid burnout. So we're always, because of, you might be a caregiver, you might be somebody that you're close to that is a caregiver, it's so hard to ask for help because you seem to think that you're the one giving the help. You should be the strong one for the person who needs the help, but you can't fill from an empty bucket. And if 2021 has taught us anything, it's that we need to make life a little bit lighter for everybody, including ourselves, because you can't make life lighter for others if you're heavy yourself. So thank you guys for being here. I just really appreciate all the statistics that you brought with you, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily consider themselves caregivers. And I bet anybody who watches this presentation can identify a caregiver in their life and can give these resources to them to help lighten their load.
Absolutely. Thanks, Casey, for saying that. And also to piggyback on that point, I think a lot of us, kind of think, yeah, it's stressful, but I got it, kind of a thing. But the fact of the matter is there's going to be a point when you don't have it, when something goes wrong, when that stress point hits, when maybe someone takes a turn for the worst, or they get deeper in their diagnosis. And it's really good to have a bit of a plan in place before that point, because there's nothing harder than reaching out and getting help when you are in emergency and you realize that you actually do need help now. So I think it helps mitigate that impact when the stressful event happens, because the stressful events will happen. We know that. So we really want to encourage people to do this now if the stress isn't at a magnitude that you can't handle, great. It's a perfect time to do something like a care plan, because then you have those things in place so that you're not scrambling under duress.
And if this crowd remembers, that was exactly the words of wisdom that Matt Neese gave us when we were talking about personal care, when accessing counseling for just anything in general. You want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself before it's a crisis. Most people don't get help until it is a huge problem. And then it's not that it's too late, it's that it's more complicated because it's a big old nasty knot versus a couple strings that are like loosely confusing. So I just encourage everybody to get out there. I did think that it was really fascinating. We polled everybody, and I'm a data geek. And at first there was 43% that said yes. And now after this presentation, 58% said yes, they're a caregiver. So that's cool. I'm just a nerd.
If I may add to that, one thing that some people will ask is, especially when it comes to more of our Gen X, our millennial population, and even, our baby boomer population, there's tons of information out there. Honestly, you could research this stuff, but when you are a caregiver and you're taking care of whomever it is, plus you're homeschooling because of COVID, or you're dealing with whatever the case may be, you don't have the time. And that additional fumbling around trying to find those resources creates more stress on you. That stress turns into whatever it is. It might be ugly backlashing at the care recipient. It might be, just crankiness towards other family members. There's a whole bunch of reasons why turning to someone else, Casey, as you said, just asking for help is so beneficial. And that actually, it reminded me of one of my caregivers who, or our caregivers who is taking care of a child who has a disability, but also has other children. And so we've had a lot of conversation of, how should we get some therapy so that we can actually have conversations around the guilt that you're feeling towards those other children who may not be getting the same amount of time, or, you and your spouse are not getting along so well. Because all of a sudden mom moved into the house and they didn't like each other in the first place, and now she has dementia, and that's really fun. Or, oh no, you had to quit your job or cut down on your work. Those are all very important things that we talk about and take time for. And honestly, I don't want to devalue just the opportunity to have someone to talk to tell your story to, because so many times, as Chelsea said, when you're in the doctor's office with the care recipient, they're talking about the care recipient, they're talking about that patient, and they want to hear their story more so. We're really working with the healthcare systems within the state of Idaho, really trying to help educate them on having more conversations with the caregiver, the invisible person in the seat next to the patient, so that we can start helping improve that care of the caregiver.
As you'll notice, I put a shameless plug for the EAP. If you are not a caregiver, if you checked box no, that is okay. We are still here for you. Please take advantage of your employee assistance program. It is 5 absolutely free sessions, and you will be connected to a provider. If that provider doesn't work for you, please go back to them, talk to them. They will get you a new provider. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. I had a really funny conversation with a friend because everybody gets into 2021 and we're like, yeah, we made it. It's all going to change. It's all going to be better. And then what we have 6 days without incident? Woohoo, go 2021. But she made a really, really funny, she said something to me and it kind of hit me. She goes, 2020 didn't start until March. This is still like just residual 2020. everything's going to slowly, progressively get better. If things are bleak in the news, turn it off and find something positive to glean onto. Remember what Matt said, find one thing a week that you can look forward to. And please, if you are not taking advantage of the EAP, just like these ladies said, before the knot gets super tangled, go ahead, make a call and just start talking to someone. Sometimes they feel like people come to just this session just for a sense of community, not necessarily because the topic isn't like really great for them, but they're here because they get a sense of, hey, we're back on campus a little bit. That in and of itself is a wonderful thing, but that also might be a sign that you need to have more community in your life, and talking to somebody will definitely help you. And we are here to help facilitate all aspects of that. Because we care. I hope that was very blatantly obvious.
Did anyone have any other questions about the Navigator Project or the Idaho Caregiver Alliance, or anything else that Chelsea or myself could help answer?
Or anyone who wants to share anything about that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a caregiver story you want to share, or
it doesn't need to
trails or
me on this soapbox?
Well, I do have a question.
Yeah.
As a person on the opposite side, I'm a person who now is receiving care because I have MS. So yay. So my family has decided, they've descended on me and put me in a bubble and whatnot. So would this EARP help me deal with the fact that there are too many people trying to rule my life?
That's a great question.
Sorry if no one can hear me.
No, we got you.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Great.
And Casey, I think that
Yeah, so from the opposite side, from the people who are receiving too much care, how do I make them stop?
That might be a great question to talk to Tiffanny and Chelsea about but I mean, like, if you think about it, it could be that their caregivers need to have that priority checklist, because if you're not giving the right kind of care.
Right. And I definitely think that, Christine, if I heard you correctly, the EAP counseling, I think that part maybe would definitely help you talk that out. Where we could benefit or help and benefit you is by then taking on your caregivers and knowing your story at the same time. So there's several times where I will be talking with the caregiver and the care recipient at the same time. And actually, the fact you just reminded me of one such couple. The wife has MS and the husband's the caregiver, and MS is its own special disease. And so there's a lot. And when people come in and start taking over your life, Christine, that I can't even imagine. I honestly cannot imagine. So facilitating those conversations, cool. those are very important things that need to happen while you still are able to have that voice, if I may be so blunt.
Yes. No, that's awesome. I just wanted to see if it was the opposite side too. It's helpful. So thank you.
That was great. Thank you, Christine, so much for speaking up. And it's so cool to know that there's like a bit of mediation between that. So there's advocacy on all parts with this program.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, we have great resources here in Idaho. We have not tons, but we have some great resources, and we have to get very clever with how we utilize those resources. And I'm thinking, there's some great advocates out there for the individual who's going through things. So Christine, I would actually recommend that you reach out to Link or the Independent Living Council, because they are very much the advocate of the individual. And so they may be able to help direct you on how to get that that conversation facilitated. Their main goal is to help the individual with whatever diagnoses be as independent as possible. Chelsea, thank you for sharing that. That would be my suggested go-to
Independent
for you,
Living Council.
Christine. Yeah, and Chelsea just shared it in the chat as well.
Yeah, they're a great organization that's focused on that self-advocacy and helping people live independently.
Yeah. The other thing that they would do is if you're on a specific insurance or a specific waiver, and those are things we can talk offline on, but they can help you. Let's say that you need to get some hired care in there because you're going to need to give those family members a break to get them out of the house as well. Maybe for more of your sanity. Honestly, that's what I tell some people. I'm like, look, you may think that this is just a break for you, but honestly, the person you're caring for needs a break from you.
Okay.
Yeah. Need them to understand. I'm not dying. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all the children being homeschooled said, yeah. They want to break from mom and dad just as much as we want to break from them.
Yeah. There's also, Christine, you had mentioned, that I'm not dying. And there might be some group or family counseling that might also need to happen to help process this, that allows you to still have a strong voice in your life because you have MS. As you said, you're not dying.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The EAP might be helpful with that.
Oh,
we could have a group session.
Yeah, Casey, thoughts?
Yeah, the EAP is great because you can't go wrong. It's 5 free sessions. Nothing is like, what's cheaper than free?
Casey, does that allow you to do family sessions as well?
Yes. You can. Anybody in your household gets 5 free sessions. So yeah, use it. It's good for you in all ways. Okay. Tiffanny Robb and Chelsea Smith are amazing. I see we have Miss Sarah, you have joined the call. You guys are just wonderful. Do we have any comments or other concerns from the audience on this topic? Because we can definitely have them back, and there will be, as I promised, I know I promise it every time, but I actually have a better system in place this time. Stephanie smiles, and I appreciate it because it's her smile that holds me accountable. It's your faces that hold me accountable. There will be a much more timely update. Last week's is in queue in my inbox. You're going to get it right when I sign off. But there will be a recap email with this video and all of the resources that were put in chat to make sure that you guys have it all. But if you have questions, the experts are on the line. Take advantage of them, just like Christine did, which was great.
I'm just putting the phone number too in there for Family Caregiver Navigator. You can always hop on the website caregivernavigator.org, but that's our direct line too during normal business hours. Oh gosh, I put 503. Sorry, that's my area code. 208 is the correct area code.
It happens, Chelsea.
It happens a lot, actually, to me. I'm a 208 person. I keep forgetting. So can we answer any more questions while we have our team on the line? And yes, Dr. Sarah Toevs is here too, and she does a lot of work for the Idaho Caregiver Alliance. She's the director of the Center for the Study of Aging, and has the full breadth and scope of what we do for this work. So happy to field any more questions.
I just want to give a big shout out to our human resource team at Boise State University for working to build family caregivers into the system and recognize this incredibly valuable piece of our employees' life. So thank you, Casey and team, for getting us for putting us on, and we look forward to rejoining and connecting in many more ways.
Oh my gosh, it's an absolute treat to have you guys here, because we talk about this quite often. I mean, like, you guys do fabulous work here at Boise State, but you wouldn't be able to do it if you're a holistic person. We have to take care of you as well. And so I'm so proud to be part of a team that is committed to getting you guys the resources you need. On that note, I'm going to transition to a few updates. We do have the experts who will still be on the line through the end of the call. So if you have questions, please throw them in chat or make a connection offline if you would like to ask questions. They're lovely and wonderful individuals who will take time for you, I promise. You're going to have to wait a minute. Not you guys, the 8-year-old. Okay, so we had a session before the break about an equipment tracking system process that after bringing to this group, we were like, need to rethink this a little bit. So I want to first and foremost say thank you for speaking up and telling us that there were a couple like hiccups in our plan. We are actually meeting tomorrow to talk about some of the suggestions that you made, and I'll be bringing that group back either next week or the week following, because we need to hammer it out tomorrow to make sure that this system is going to work for us. So please, thank you for your patience with us as we figure things out as we continue to navigate COVID land. And as I promised, you will now be getting weekly updates every time we have a fireside chat. And the website, as of right now, is up to date. So feel free to go and look at that. Other quick note about the HR website. I'm destroying it. Very simply put, it's been a hot mess for a very long time, and I'm trying to make it more user-friendly. But in doing so, I'm destroying it. So if it's confusing, blame me, and please email me because no one else in the department has any blame except I moved something and then forgot to tell somebody, like pork meal. I moved most of the benefit sites and she's like, hey, where'd this go? I'm like, oh, I deleted it. And she's like, why? I'm like, you needed that. So working to fix it all. So, thank you for your patience as we fix that. And I promise in 2021, a functional HR website, my gift to you. And it'll be beautiful. And it will highlight all of these resources that you will want as an employee, such as Idaho Caregivers Alliance. And if you have any questions for any HR professionals, that was the 10-minute mark. Towards the end of this meeting, we are here for you, for your questions. Insert Zoom pause here.
If you wouldn't mind, Casey, I just want to share one more thing.
Yes.
I just want to share, this is our website, caregivernavigator.org. And I also want to point out that we have a referral system. It's not just for doctors, social workers, et cetera, as long as you have permission from the caregiver to refer them, because we don't want to be calling people who have no idea why they're on our list.
You don't want to do cold calls?
Yeah, we don't want to cold call. We don't want to make anyone angry. So, but if you let someone know, hey, there's a program that might be able to assist. Would you be willing to, get a phone call to learn more about it? Then you can hit that referral button on the main page, fill out this information that just gives us a little bit of a sense of the situation. And we will make at least 2 outbound phone calls to them to try and get in touch and see if they're interested in the program. So, and we also have a nice link to the resource library I mentioned on here as well, and some other resources. We also have a Spanish page that explains the program. And so what I will do too is I'll make sure that Casey gets our digital postcard, which is an easy way to explain the program to somebody, and just share it and say, can I refer you to this program, or for yourself as well. So I'll make sure that Casey has that so she can throw that in the follow-up email.
Yes, please. As Sean would call it, the elevator pitch for how to be if you're a caregiver.
If I may just tag on to that, I think that the university provides provides a great community of individuals who are wandering around not realizing they are a caregiver, especially as Chelsea had spoken about, the Gen Z, the Gen Y, these are individuals who are caregivers as well. And I can just speak for myself, teaching classes and running into students who, after having some conversation with them, realizing that they're a caregiver. So we need to get them the supports if we really want to retain them as students and help them be successful as students. And they don't have to be living off campus. They could be living in a dorm and being a caregiver to their dorm mate. So these are things that we need to think outside the box when it comes to caregiving. So definitely please use the referral form if at all possible, if you have permission, because we'd love to help everybody on campus as well as off campus.
That was a great, yeah. I'm pretty sure I was my roommate's caregiver when I was in college. That was fun.
There's one thing to be a caregiver. Well, we'll help you define that.
Oh, funny. Okay, well, we have 7 minutes left. We have most of the HR team still on the call. I Zoom paused, but if you guys don't have questions, I will give you back the gift of time. The next 2 sessions are TBA, but I promise they will be worth your time. And if they are not, I will be giving you an email to say we're canceling this week because I value you as humans, but because I work super hard for you guys, I will get meaningful topics for the next 2 weeks. But you want to join us for sure. February 2nd, we have the Pro Staff Association who's going to be coming and talking about PSA and how to get involved with them. I just had a meeting with the Recognition Employee Appreciation Group. I'm hoping to actually get them on the 26th. So hopefully we can be talking about recognition and appreciation for Boise State employees. Yes, Tiffany, you just threw emails for Chelsea and Tiffanny in the chat. Please snag those so you can have offline conversations. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you for joining us this week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. If you have questions, you can email me, and have a great day.